The last few days, we've had the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am in Monterey County, and Saturday and Sunday both had rain and winds, and it had a big impact on play. And actually, finals day is now on Monday because some of the play got postponed. So I thought it would just be interesting to ask ChatGPT, how does weather affect golf? And it spit out a response, so figure I could read this, and then maybe I'll use something I learned here on the midday news starting in about 45 minutes. So let's check this out. The title looks like it's The Effect of Weather on Golf, a Scientific Perspective. So golf is a sport that requires players to have precision, focus, and the right conditions to perform their best. Yeah, I can attest that it takes a lot of precision. I got obsessed with golf for about 3 months and did not improve at all. I cannot believe how difficult golf is, actually. But whether you're an amateur golfer, that would be me, or a professional, the weather can have a significant impact on your game. Understanding how the weather affects golf can help you prepare for the next round and make the most out of your time on the course. Now, so I guess the first thing I think of reading this is knowing about weather probably isn't actually going to help your game all that much, because I certainly know a lot about weather, and I am a terrible golfer. Although I am sure there's probably people who are good golfers can take some of the tips that this post is probably going to say and take it into mind and then affect their play in a certain way to actually have a big advantage on the field. And I do know there's some technology coming out that's actually combining like weather forecasting with sports, and teams that are picking up these aspects or these hints from meteorologists have a big advantage over teams that don't. But maybe more information on that later. So first, let's just figure out how wind affects golf. The wind can play a major role in affecting the trajectory and speed of a golf ball. If you're playing in strong winds, it's important to adjust your shot to compensate for the wind's effect. So for example, if you're hitting into the wind, you should aim lower to keep the ball from rising too high and slowing down. I feel like that makes sense. And then if you're hitting with the wind, aim higher to take advantage of the extra lift. So if the wind's coming at you, the last thing you would want to do is have your ball go super high in the air, because then the wind's going to bring it back towards you and lead to a lower shot. But if the wind's behind you going towards the green, that's where you want to just loft the ball up and then have the wind take the ball farther. Although I guess it would also depend on how close you are. Not a big golfer again, but if you were really close, maybe you'd actually want to hit a lower shot, because if you lofted it up, the wind might throw it past the green. I don't know. So rain has little impact. So that was something that actually did impact the Pebble Beach Pro-Am this last week. And I actually saw one video, there was some hail coming down. So yeah, I believe they ended up having to cancel it because it was raining so much. So rain can make the course slippery, which can affect your grip and cause you to hit the ball differently than you normally would. Makes sense. Rain can also make the fairways and greens softer, which can affect the speed and roll of the ball. I actually can attest to that aspect right there. I played once after the rain, so it wasn't still raining, but the course was all muddy. And I remember hitting one shot and got like a lot of height to the shot. And when it came down, because the ground was kind of soft and muddy, the ball, instead of like hitting and then rolling, just hit and literally just stuck in the mud. And I don't know if that's like bad golf etiquette to play on a muddy course, because kind of destroys the course a little bit. There was certainly a hole after my ball went in. But yeah, I'm sure golfers would take that into account too. If the course is very soft and muddy, maybe you don't want to hit it very high, because then it would just go right into the ground and then stick there. And then maybe if anybody knows the answer to this, leave a question in the comments. But I wonder in golf, if your ball like sticks into the ground, if you're legally allowed to take it out and place it on an area, or do you just have to hack under the ball and just destroy the course to get it out there? It's good. Interesting golf question. I don't know the answer to that one. I know more about weather than I do golf. So to prepare for a rainy round, consider wearing waterproof shoes and gloves, and bring a towel to keep your grip dry. That's kind of common sense. All right, now let's check out how temperature impacts golf. So I actually know the answer to this one because it's most likely the exact same answer as how temperature affects baseball. And I've done a trivia question on that in the past. So temperature can impact golf performance. Extreme heat can cause players to become fatigued more quickly, while extreme cold can cause muscles to stiffen, making it harder to swing the club. That's interesting this comes up because I recently just started lifting weights again, and I watched this one video where somebody said it's actually good to cold plunge before you lift weights because it, wakes your body up and gives you energy. But then the first thing I thought about was if you cold plunge too long, your body would stiffen up, and I imagine that wouldn't be good for lifting weights and might actually be dangerous because I imagine that would be the opposite of stretching. But quite a tangent right there. So basically what this is saying is temperature can impact golfers, and that ends up impacting your play. If you are in the hot sun, I actually do remember playing golf at one point this last summer. It was like 100 degrees out, and it was all right for the first maybe 12 holes, but then on the back 9, I was just exhausted, and I'm already a bad golfer. So once I was fatigued and then also losing focus because when your body gets fatigued, so does your mind. The back 9 was pretty ugly, and it took a long time. So, yeah, staying hydrated, that's always a big one. Not only if you're playing golf, but if it's just hot out, always good to stay hydrated. To prepare for extreme temperatures, everybody knows that. Make sure you're probably hydrated and dressed for the weather. All right, so last one, altitude. And I noticed they didn't say what I thought they were going to say for temperature here, but they do say it in altitude. I just kind of peeked ahead a little bit. If you're playing at a course at high altitude, so if you're playing like the mountains versus sea level, so Pebble Beach Pro-Am would be at sea level, so maybe this one wouldn't apply to it that much. The ball will travel farther because the air is thinner. So the air is thinner in the mountains, so the ball, if you hit it, it's literally bouncing against less air particles, so it's going to fly a lot farther. And that's what I thought they were going to say for temperature, because when it's warmer outside, the air particles are more spread out. So if it's a 90-degree day, you would want probably a little bit less club than you're used to because the ball is going to fly just a little bit farther than if it's a cold day. If it's a cold day, lots of air particles are very dense, and it's actually going to bump into the ball more, and then that ball is not going to travel as far. So hot day, you would want less club. Cold day, you would want more club. And more club, I think that's right golf terminology, but more club means you can hit it farther than you're used to adjust for the air. And I do remember reading in the past that a cold day versus a hot day could be the difference by as much as 10 yards in your golf shot. For an inexperienced golfer like me, I'm literally just trying to hit it straight, so I wouldn't take this into account at all because if I swing twice, one might go 50 yards and the other one might go 100. So experienced golfers could take that into account, and same with altitude. So this can make it important to adjust your shot to compensate for extra distance. It's important to remember that the thinner air can make it harder to breathe, which can affect your performance. I've certainly noticed that playing tennis at higher altitude. It's not only much easier to just sail the ball into the fence, but you also get tired way faster. But then it's also cool when you come back to lower elevation. It's so much easier because you've basically been training with less oxygen. So to prepare for playing at a high altitude, make sure you're in good physical shape and take breaks as needed. So they didn't really have to take into account any of that for the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, pretty close to sea level. And conclusion, golf is a sport that can be affected by many different factors, including the weather. Whether it's the wind, rain, temperature, or altitude, understanding how the weather affects golf can help you prepare for your next round and perform your best. By taking the time to consider these factors, you'll be able to focus on your game and enjoy your time on the course. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I don't really enjoy my time on the course when I play golf. That's why I stopped playing. It's quite frustrating. And I'm sure I'll get back into it at some point in my life, but maybe when I do, I'll keep all these factors in mind. Perhaps that was what was keeping me from becoming a better golfer in the past. I wasn't applying meteorological knowledge. So just to basic summary of what we've learned. If the wind is behind you, the ball is going to travel farther. And if you want it to travel farther, you want to get a little more loft under the ball. So then that wind just picks it up. If the wind is coming at you and you want to hit it far, you would want to hit a low shot so it doesn't get picked up in the wind as much. When it comes to rain, if the ground is very muddy, if you get a lot of loft under your ball, it's not going to roll all that much. So if you want your ball to roll, you might want to keep that shot low. Temperature, if it's hot out, well, first off, stay hydrated. And then 2, if it's hot out, the ball is going to travel farther. If it's cold out, it's going to travel not as far. So you'd want to maybe adjust your club there because it could be the difference as much as 10 yards. I'm sure you have to be very good to be able to take that into account. And then altitude, same as temperature. When the air is thinner, so you're at higher altitude, the ball is going to travel farther. So if you're very close to the green, you maybe don't want to swing as hard as you normally would at sea level if you're up in the mountains, because then you might hit the ball right over the green, which is what I do no matter what I try in golf. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe I'll use one of these facts in the midday show coming up in about 30 minutes. Hopefully you learned something as well and that you can apply some of this knowledge to your golf game to become better. Thanks for watching.